Hello and welcome to HomeTruths. It's good to have you aboard. Now, let me ask you this. What would you do if you had to move away from your family and friends? Move away from a place that you've called your home for most of your life. And add to this, you have to uproot your child or children to move away with you. This is what's happening to thousands of families across the whole of the UK. Single parents, mothers and their children being forced to move because of the changes that are taking place and have taken place in our welfare system. The introduction of the bedroom tax, the lack of money to pay for rent are causing upheaval and misery amongst families because they're being served eviction notices by their local council, having to move out of property, which I've said they've called their home for years. In Newham, in East London, this is taking place, and I want to read you something. Mothers from an East Ham run project called Focus E15 and Baby Unit have been served eviction notices and have been told they're going to have to leave their property. The reason for this is because they struggle to pay the bedroom tax, the council tax, because of the caps that have been taking place. And now they're going to have to move outside of their homes, from their homes to outside of the borough. We're going to be joined by two mums who started the campaign. It's called the Focus E15 Mothers Campaign, and Jasmine Stone and Sam Middleton will be joining me on HomeTruths. But before that, just take a look at this.
So we are going to talk about the whole social cleansing, and to help me talk about that, but more importantly about the Focus E15 Mothers Campaign, I'm joined by Jasmine Stone and also Sam Middleton. So firstly, tell me, Jasmine, why you decided to set up the campaign?
The mothers at Focus E15 were handed an eviction notice and were all asked to look for our own properties, and we realised how hard it was to find accommodation in London. So we all got together and started a campaign to fight against evictions and fight people being sent out of London.
So when were you served these eviction notices? When was that?
We got our eviction notices on the 20th of August to be out for the 20th of October.
Wow. Okay. Tell me how you ended up at the Focus E15 Baby Unit. Talk to me about that.
During my pregnancy, there was a bit of conflict with me being pregnant, that some people didn't agree with it, and I ended up becoming homeless. So I turned to Connections and they moved me on to go to Focus E15 as a supported housing.
How old were you then?
I was 18 at the
time. And how old are you
now?
19. Okay, so
yeah.
just a year ago.
Yeah. So once you go to Focus E15, you're told that it's a 6 to 8 months contract. Just temporary accommodation to support you through the last months of your pregnancy and the beginning of your child's life, and then you're moved on to accommodation.
And they help you with that? The council helps you with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And Sam, how did you end up at the Focus E15?
I basically left my mum and dad's and I was living with my partner for about 2.5 years. That relationship became physical and violent, so I decided to leave, and I was sofa surfing for about 3 or 4 months, and I just thought, well, there's no point in me wanting to be homeless anymore. So I actually went down to housing services in Stratford. They referred me to First Step, which is a follow-on process to Focus. And it was while I was at First Step I met someone else and I became pregnant.
You still with him?
Yeah, I'm still with him.
Let's get a bit deeper into this then. So you were served eviction notices in August by the council in East Thames. They said because of what? Because I hear there was a grant, £41,000 that had been taken away. Explain a bit more for me, Jasmine.
Yeah, there was a funding from Newham Council called Supporting People, which kept the mother and baby unit running. which meant that we could have our support work session, have a dedicated support worker that we could go to if we had any issues. And we also used to have groups to get all the mothers and babies together, just so we had that network there. Yeah.
And then as soon as the money went, that support was taken away.
Yeah.
And Focus E15, it is about, as you said, temporary accommodation. You said it's about 8 months or so. It's at the beginning of the child's life, and then helping you in that transitional phase as well. They've given you these notices. Why do you have to move outside of the borough though? I don't understand that. Why is the issue that you have to move away from your family and friends?
Well, the council said that we needed to look for private rented accommodation ourselves. We all did that. We was all looking every day, and it was...
Was that hard? Because before you had someone who was helping you, and now you're left to your own devices.
It was extremely hard, especially trying to find somewhere that's privately rented and under or on the benefit cap. So,
and what is the cap at the moment? What's the cap?
920. Yeah, 920 a month.
So have you found any landlords on your search who are willing to take you guys, in terms of the benefits and say, okay, we accept that, you can come and live? Have you found anyone?
I personally found 2. One of them, when I went to view the property was in such a bad condition that they actually told us to walk up the stairs with our legs apart because it was that dangerous. So that one was out of the question. Another one of the properties, it was quite nice. I was willing to pay the extra over the benefit cap. But when I was trying to contact the council, it was impossible for me to get hold of them. And where you can't put a deposit down to the landlord, because they say if you can afford to put a deposit down, then you can afford to pay it. So I got help from my mum at that point to help me get a deposit down. But they wouldn't let me do it, so I ended up losing the property because the council wasn't quick enough to negotiate.
So when you went to the council, who are the ones forcing you to move out of your home, and you said, look, I found somewhere and I need a deposit, who were you talking? Why weren't they picking up the phone and going, okay, here's the deposit for you? Why weren't they? I don't understand why they weren't helping you.
They just wasn't quick enough. I was trying to call for so long. Finally got through, and once I spoke to someone, when they had called the landlord, the property was taken by somebody who was able to put the deposit down.
So you guys have all got together because
you can't be the only one who's experienced that.
No.
I'm sure other mums. There's 29 mums in the unit, isn't there? So you all got together and decided, okay, enough is enough. We've got to do something. And it's not about saving these homes. It's about getting a home and getting a home in your area where you've grew up. So what did you do? It seems easy to form a campaign, but it can't be that easy. What did you have to do?
Basically, on Saturday after we was issued with the notice to clicks, we was just out walking one day, and me and Jasmine saw Hannah from Fight Racism and Fight Imperialism, and we basically just asked her how can we start a campaign, what's the best way to go about it, and since then it's just exploded from there.
What did she say? What was her advice?
Well, it wasn't really advice, it was more like, come along next week, because we spoke to her for a good couple hours while she was campaigning herself, and she was like, well yeah, come along next week, it's an open mic, and we've just been going every weekend since.
Wow. And what's the response been?
It has been really positive. You do get the odd person that is quite negative about things.
What do you mean negative? What are they saying?
Well, there are some people that can be quite nasty about the fact that some of us are either single mothers or we got pregnant when we was young. There are some people that aren't too nice about that, but so far our petition, we've had over 2,000 people sign it, that's written, and we've had nearly 1,000 online signatures.
What do you hope will happen when you finally say hand over those signatures? And do you know how many signatures you want to collect? Is there a kind of a top line you want to reach?
Well, we haven't really got a number. We've just sort of got a time scale of when we want to hand in the petition.
And what do you hope will come from handing over this petition? I mean, who are you handing it to? East Thames or the council or both?
Well, we've got to discuss that. We're just trying to get as many as we can at the moment, and then will make our ultimate decision.
But what do you want to come from all of that? What's the ultimate, the best outcome?
Basically for landlords and the council basically to work together and basically get off their backsides. Because all it was when we first heard about this was that each other passing the blame to each other. No one was taking any responsibility for anything. Because East Thames, there are landlords that issued us with the eviction notice, but then it's the council's responsibility to help us start getting home.
I remember we talked before we came on air today, and you were telling me about East Thames saying they had to issue these eviction notices in order for you eventually to be seen by, be it private landlords, etc., to be deemed as homeless. Do you want to explain a bit more about that?
Basically, with the notices to quit, when they were first issued, we did cause an uproar about it because nobody knew what was going on, whatever. I mean, that's when we actually got told, well, we did it because we not basically could, but we thought it would be the best option for you to see that you would be homeless. So therefore, landlords will take you because they have to take you there and then.
It's the best option for you.
The council, there's such lack of housing according to them at the moment that for the point for them to help you, you go past your eviction date. The day that the bailiffs come to remove you from your property is the day that they will rehouse you, and whatever's available on that day is where you'll go. Because we did a demonstration at Bridge House, the council office, and on that day there was two mothers with children. One of them had an 8-month-old child, and they had gone there because they were homeless on that day, and they were both sent to Birmingham.
Oh my God.
On that day, and they had no choice. It was literally Birmingham or homeless.
So if that happened to you, Sam, you're given an option. You either go on the streets with little baby Sean, or you get moved, say, to Coventry. What do you do? I don't even can think of it, but what would you do?
I don't know what I'd be able to do because he's got his dad around and his family. Then I've got my mum, my family and stuff like that. I don't want you not knowing them, which is why we've basically put up a fight so far and done what we've done, because nobody wants to be moved away from anyone that they know, really. There was people out there who say, well, Neil's not all that. Do you really want your kid growing up around here? Yeah, I do. Because I'm not being funny, I grew up around here. It didn't do that any harm to me, so it's all I know basically. I'm not going to go somewhere where I don't know anyone, anything.
Do you think you'd be able to cope if you had to?
Me as a mum, I think I'd probably be able to cope, but in general, I don't think I would be able to because I've got no one around me. So if I felt ill, it's 15 minutes drive from where I am to whoever I need basically right now. It'd be like an hour. How can I do that? I couldn't do it personally.
It would cost too much as well. With the amount of money we get, it would cost so much to just travel all the way, if you're out of London. So, and even my mum, she works, but she wouldn't actually be able to afford to come down to me. Because I would see my mum a few times a week, that's what I do now. And I think it's wrong that our children are going to be deprived from seeing their family.
If there was a counsellor here now, what would you say to them? Because, counsellors are supposed to be working on your behalf. Have you talked to any of your local counsellors at all?
Yeah.
And what's happened?
We spoke to Terry Paul and he's basically said, because he apparently knew nothing about the Carpenter's estate, so what he said he'd do for us is look into it and see what's going on with that. He doesn't actually give us a date yet of when he'll get back in touch with us or whatever, but he said he would definitely look into it because it's all of them homes that are void basically. There's no one in them.
There's an issue around social housing across the whole of the cap, across the whole of the UK. But in Newham itself, in the Coventry estate, it was a state that the flats and the homes there were put aside for a potential campus, University of East London, were bidding or vying to set students up there, and it got voted out. So now all these houses are there, and there's talk about all these houses, all the toilets have got concrete down them, so you can't use them. But the fact is, there is credible stock there that could accommodate potentially you guys if the council wanted to. I think we're going to have to try and get the council. We're going to have to follow this story through just to see if we can get some of the councillors on board and talk to them about this. I want to say to you, Jasmine, well, two things. First, I think to both of you, it's great what you're doing. I think there needs to be more awareness out there in terms of what's happening. But in the opening, I talked about social cleansing. You said, Sam, a lot of people, I say, why do you want to bring up your kid in Newham? It's not the best area. And you said, well, actually, this is what I know, and it's done me okay. There's nothing wrong in this. Yeah. But do you think there's a kind of a social cleansing in terms of the agenda of councillors or housing associations in relation to certain members of our community in terms of working class backgrounds, like we would say the poor? Do you think there's another agenda going on here?
To be honest, my view of it is basically they don't want no one who's on benefits basically to be in Newham anymore, let alone in London, because all I've seen is people that are working, all these expensive flats are going up and everything, even down to the Olympic Village. Half of them flats are empty. Who's in the rest of the flats? People who are working, who can afford it, everything like that. I don't know where the boundary is of them saying, well, no, half of it should be for certain people, half of it should be for another certain people.
Well, most developers, when they sign a contract, commit to supplying a certain amount of social housing, so it could be 25%, it could be 15%, it varies. But there is a stock of social housing which is given over to the local authority. So if we look at the Olympic Village, there is I don't know the percentage, but I know there is a stock there for social housing. If you've gone to the website, it talks about it. So you're right, I don't know, I don't have the answers, but we need to be asking those answers, those questions, to get some answers.
This is what we're saying. I mean, the council... the council has said that they have no social housing available, but yet we do know that there is loads available. It's just, they just don't want to give it to us. They just don't want to know.
And you really do think the council has an agenda for people who are on benefits, who can't pay as much as they would like? There's a whole kind of a gentrification taking place across East London, not just in Newham. You feel that as well?
Yeah,
Jasmine?
definitely. It seems like they're just trying to make London a place for just the rich, because there's all expensive shops, luxury apartments. Even people on a standard wage wouldn't be able to afford a luxury apartment. And another thing is, we all do want to go back to work as mothers. My daughter's 1.5 now. I'm ready to go back to work. I want to be a childminder. So obviously I would need the space to be able to do that. But if we was in private rented accommodation, we wouldn't be able to afford to go back to work, because we would be getting a lot less money going to work than we would being on benefits, which is ridiculous.
Is that also a problem? It's a wider issue, and I don't know if we'll be able to discuss it all today, because we're fastly coming to the end of today's show, but there is a wider issue in terms of benefits versus work, and some mothers or dads as well saying it makes more economic sense to stay on the benefits than it does going to work. And there's arguments that, well, that could never be the case, because it's about sexual esteem, how you feel about yourself, going to work, you're providing for your kids. But do you think that's a fact, that for some parents that they do make that judgment call, and it's not because they want to stay on it, it's just that it's the only way they think they can survive?
Yeah, well, my partner works, and he even says that the work that he does is fine, but the pay that he gets can't stretch to what he needs to get, like down to his rent, his food, whatever, and then clothes, food, whatever for him. I know exactly how he feels. I used to be getting a quarter of his pay every 2 weeks, so I know exactly how it feels when it can't stretch. But down to the point when if I was to go back into work now, the flat that I'm in the foyer, they would like £120 for it for a week. and that's just rent alone. I don't see why anyone should have to pay that much and afford it. I really don't.
So you're looking right now. Someone's looking at this or listening to us as well, and they could find it. How much can you pay? I mean, let's get down to it. What kind of rents are you looking for right now?
Well, at the moment we're looking for rents under the benefit cap,
Okay.
which is £920 a month. It is hard to find that in Newham or in London, but we would, if it was social housing, it would be a lot less than that. It would be half of that, wouldn't it? It would be like half of that amount a month, which would be really helpful for us, because then we can go back to work, we can provide for our children and give them what we want to give our children.
So the eviction notice have been served. When are you expecting for them to enforce it for you having to move away from the foyer? When are they talking about? What's the timeline?
They haven't actually given us a deadline now that they've taken, because they actually took it away and said it was the wrong idea, it was the wrong way to go about it. But through the council side, we are still homeless. We've all still been issued with letters stating that we're homeless. We've all been issued with meetings and stuff like that to issue us with the homeless letters.
In the past week, 9 mums have actually been moved out.
Where to?
It has been in London.
That's good.
We've half won our victory. They've been in London, but
close to Newham, or I mean, just being in London is better than being in Coventry or Birmingham, but pretty close to family.
Some of them, yeah.
Not everyone's happy.
But if you were said by the council that we're moving you to Walthamstow or we're moving you to Croydon, that's a better thing than having to go to Birmingham.
Definitely, yeah.
No, go on, Sam.
The only thing is, the reason why Jackson was saying that we've only basically won half is because it is still privately rented and it's short term. It's still only 12 years short term tenancy.
Higher rent.
Yes, and it does get higher every year.
So after the 12 months we could actually we will be moving again, because each year the rents go up and the landlords at any point they can say that they don't want us to be their tenants anymore. So in 12 months later we'll be moving again, and then we could be moving to Birmingham, because we haven't got our group together, our campaign won't be as strong.
So divide and conquer.
Wash their hands of us.
Yeah, try to divide you. Well, let's not allow that to happen.
Definitely.
You see that camera there? I want you to tell people who are listening and who are watching, but particularly as if it was Newham Council and East Thames, what you think and what you want. So let's not allow them to divide and conquer. Let's hear your home truths.
We want social housing in London where we can stay around our family and support networks, and we're going to carry on with our campaign, and we're not going to give up the fight. We've got many people who are supporting us, and we're going to fight this, not just for ourselves but for families all over London, and we want to achieve our goals.
Basically, don't let our kids grow up without knowing their family. Everybody needs a family at the end of the day. You wouldn't want to see someone homeless, let alone a child. So, yeah.
I think that's good points by both of you there. Jasmine, Sam and little Sean, thank you for coming on Home Truths today. We're going to put the link of the support group, particularly the Facebook page, which is Focus Mummies, facebook.com. So sign up for that, please, and support what these beautiful, courageous young women are doing to fight to stay in their home, their hometown, their borough of Newham, and not being forced away to live hundreds of miles away from their support network. So like I said, the information's on the bottom of the screen, or I'm about to post it right now on our Twitter and Facebook at Break London. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Remember, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, if there's a home truths you want to talk about, if there's a campaign you want us to get behind and support, all you've got to do is you can email me right now, trevor@breaklondon.co.uk. You can also hit me up on Facebook or Twitter at Break London. Leave a message and I tell you now I will be in touch with you. I kid you not, okay? remember this, words are one of the greatest weapons known to men. They can actually pierce a heart, but you know what? They can also heal any broken soul. So do think carefully whenever you're delivering your home truths. Until next time, take care.